Hi, this is Explaining to Me I Don't Have Time, and we're gonna take a look at the Feenstaub HDR, a new plugin by Variety of Sound. Feenstaub is a mastering processor, split band compressor, saturator, dynamic EQ, and mid-side processor. It works great with complicated signals, stereo master file, or drum buses, stuff like that. It's calibrated to -12 dB FS RMS, European Analog 0, not -18. That means that it's a non-linear plugin. You should gain stage your signal before going into this plugin. Why? If you have the transformer engaged, the saturation of the low end is going to be dictated by how hot the signal is going into the plugin. Otherwise, for the mid and highs and the side signal, you have THD potentiometers, which sets the saturation for these sections. Low end doesn't have that. If you untick the transformer, no matter how hot the signal is, the bass is not gonna be saturated. LFGR dictates the gain reduction for the low end, HFGR is dictating for the mid and highs, and side GR is for the stereo field. THD under this, HFGR is for the mids and highs saturation, and saturation for the side signal is under side GR in this module. These faders are for additional makeup gain. The plugin itself is great at compensating the lost signal, but if you feel like you need more or less, you can set it by these faders, mid, lows, and sides. The crossover between the bands is set on the left here. Great thing to do is to solo the signal so you know exactly where the crossover sits. Moving on, this module here is the dynamic EQ. A great way to beef up the signal even further. If you have something less usable or almost unusable, and you feel like you need more sub bass or the sheen on the high end, this is a great module to do that at. You can set the SR from 1 kHz to 19 kHz and the bass from 30 Hz to 800 Hz. For me, great thing to do is enhance the sub bass a little bit, so I set it at 30 Hz and just boost it by 5 to 30% max. It's kind of aggressive, so I would be really considerate when setting this thing. And again, if I need more polish on the high end, I usually start from 5 or 3 maybe kilohertz to 8 kilohertz and just boost a little bit. We have timing for the compressors here. We have two modes, glue and Varimu. Varimu is more round and more or less follows the timing set on the potentiometer. If you have glue, the timing is gonna be more faster. It's gonna be faster. The compressor is not gonna follow the timing exactly. It's gonna be more aggressive. And again, it depends on what kind of signal is going into the plugin. When you set the gain reduction potentiometers, it takes about 1 to 2 seconds for anything to happen. It's because there is something going on in the background, the signal is being analyzed, and then the compressor is being set accordingly to what's going on with the signal. That explains why the timing is different depending on the signal. Usually, myself, I work with Varimu because I like how the signal or the sound, how round the sound is. And then you have the link. The link can be set for RMS, peak, or full. I think the full is for both, if I remember correctly. So if you have the link set for 50% and peak, and there is a gain reduction on the high HFGR, there is going to be if there is a gain reduction by 2 dB there's going to be 1 dB reduction on the low end, and vice versa. I didn't find any particular moment where I would say I need link engaged. I usually work without it, but it's there, and if I feel like I need linked low-end and high-end compressors, I know where to find it. The headroom can be, if I go back to the headroom, it can be adjusted here by this fader out there, the HR fader. It works, it can be confusing at first. If you have plus values, that means that you are increasing the headroom. That means that the signal is going less into the plugin. If you have minus values, that means the signal is hotter. And you can see actually by looking at the compressor, it's going to be taking more dB out of the signal. So that means, so if you need to increase the headroom, go into the plus values. If you need to decrease the headroom, go into minus values. The outputs fader is self-explanatory. It decreases the signal going out of the plugin. Lastly, let's take a look at the buttons here on the top right. The diode is actually a mode for the whole plugin. When you have it on, the plugin behaves more aggressively, it's more solid. It's actually described as the overall dynamic response is more direct, solid state sound. I usually have it off, but it's there for you if you need that kind of sound. To the right, we have high pass filter. It's all the way at the start of the chain of the plugin. If you have it on, there is a 12 dB per octave filter, high pass filter, and it's slightly resonant. That means that there is a little bit, there's a little bump on the fall off of the filter. The transformer, if it's on, saturates the low end. If it's off, it doesn't saturate the low end. And this spinning thing is a global bypass button for the whole plugin. All right, that's the overview. Now let's take a look at how it sounds and see it in action. All right, this was Feenstaub HDR, a new plugin by Variety of Sound. Free, great mastering processor. Check it out. I'm gonna leave the link in the video description. This was I Don't Have Time. Explain to me. See you in the next one. Take care.